G'day Internet, this is George on the 2nd of May 2026. Love to present to you today's message of hope. Okay, he was injured, but he still walked to work and the Internet lost his mind. So here's what God thinks. What does that mean? Well, Sunday evening used to do something to me, okay? Not all at once. It would creep in around about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It was a low-level dread settling over everything. I mean, the week opening up ahead like a sentence to be served. Whew. And I knew it was coming. I just never examined it closely enough to ask whether it had to be that way forever. For most of my working life, I thought that was just a deal. So you find a job, you just show up, you manage the gap between Sunday evening and Friday afternoon as best as you can. Sometimes even Saturday because I have to work. And somewhere in that gap you earn enough to make the weekends worthwhile. Yep, you work 5 days, have 2 days off. That's what he says. And that was the arrangement, I guess. Very common. No, I didn't question it because to me that was the norm. And I'm guessing neither did anyone around me because most of my peers, they work the same. I suspect you know exactly what I'm describing. Now, the memes about Monday are not accidental, you see. There is an entire cultural industry built on the shared understanding that most people are dragging themselves back to something they would rather avoid. It's the word Monday-itis. And that's the word we use. It's said with a cheeky affection, as if the dread it's charming or at least inevitable, right? Some people would think. We have absorbed it so thoroughly that people who seem genuinely enthusiastic about the work on a Monday morning are regarded with mild suspicions. People may think you're a bit of a cuckoo looking forward to work, pretty much like SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, what are they trying to prove? That reaction is worth pausing on, isn't it? Because it tells you something about what we've come to accept as normal. Now, I've held a lot of different jobs across my career, various industries. Some paid well, some I was competent at without being particularly energized by them. Yeah. And for a long time, I assumed that's how it worked. That enjoyment was a bonus, not a design feature. That the best you could reasonably hope for was work that wasn't actively unpleasant. That I always think, maybe there's always 10% in a job that you don't like. Now, then I worked as a real estate agent by choice. And I have to tell you, something shifted. I found myself on a Sunday evening and I noticed the absence of what I always assumed would be there. The dread wasn't coming this time. I was actually looking forward to the next morning. Looking forward to being productive, to turning up and doing the work. And my manager left me alone as long as I made sales. Fair enough. And I made sales, I'm telling you. But here's what I remember more clearly than the numbers. I knew I was excellent at following up, you see. And I didn't do it in a harassing way. But I was generally good at it. I was consistent and I was reliable. I think my boss counted me on that. It was a kind of follow-up where people felt remembered rather than chased. I knew I wasn't pushing anyone towards something that they didn't want, because I knew it would bite me back later on. And that mattered to me. And I kept educating myself constantly, right? I was reading, learning. I was even engaging a coach to help me out. Always trying to be better at the craft of being a real estate agent. Oh wow, being a salesperson anyway. Now, nobody asked me to do any of that. I just did it because the work was worth doing it properly. I can say it was the only job in my career where I said to myself quietly, and without announcing to a lot of people, that this has cured my Monday-itis. It really felt that way. I was so joyful. But what I didn't understand then, but I think I understand now, is that the reason Monday felt different wasn't primarily because of the industry, and I worked in a lot of industry, right? It was just the integrity, right? When your work aligns with your values, when you can look at what you've done and know you did it honestly, and that your growth was your own responsibility, right? Not someone else to manage. Something becomes available that simply doesn't exist when you're cutting corners or being watched like a child to make sure you don't do it. Now, thank the Lord. I'll thank my manager. I wasn't being micromanaged, and I loved that. I was just trusted to perform, and I was performing in a way I could stand behind it. I'll give my stamp of approval. Yes, I did a pretty good job. And that's not just a good employment arrangement. Now, looking back, here's my favorite part, the Bible verse. You'll find in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. It says, whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. When the person overseeing your work trusts you to get on with it, and you're genuinely getting on with it, for reasons that have nothing to do with whether anyone's watching, you're actually working for a different audience entirely. But looking further back than that, it reaches all the way to a garden. Are you ready for this analogy? You see, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. And this is before the fall where the sin entered the world, okay? We know the story. And it's before the thorns and the thistles and the sweat of the brow, where sin came and just made things really hard for human beings. God took the man he had formed and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. That is a fact. So work was not punishment. Work came first. Now the garden needed tending, and God gave that work to Adam as his purpose rather than a penalty, which is what I said before. What the fall brought was the difficulty, right? The ground that resists and the toil that exhausts. It's the labor that rarely feels proportionate to the result. Hey, but the work itself, it was already there. It was already pretty good, and I guess it was already meaningful before a single thing went wrong. Which means that when we treat work as something to be endured, something to survive until Friday, well, something to retire from as early as possible, we are accepting a diminishing version of something God designed to be a gift. I want to switch to another passage, so have a listen to this. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 24. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. I clearly remember my friend emailing me, telling me he's enjoying himself working as a courier delivery driver. And I envied him for a little moment then. So, from that passage, find enjoyment in his toil. It's not about tolerance and certainly not about management, but it's purely concentrated on enjoyment. And King Solomon does not write that as a remote possibility or a lucky outcome for a fortunate few. I don't think so. He writes it as the best thing available to a human being. And then he adds the sentence that changes everything. This also I saw is from the hand of God. So you can interpret that the enjoyment of your work is a gift from God, not a lucky accident. Don't think of it as a result of stumbling into the right industry or the right title or even the right pay grade, okay? It is deliberately a gift from God, something He makes available, right? I believe He designed it for you specifically. And the man who wakes up on a Monday morning and is genuinely glad about where he's going, that man is not unusual or naive or trying too hard. That man has experienced something God put within for every person who has ever worked. I'm guessing I can hear objection, right? What if I genuinely dislike my job, George? What if the work is hard, unrewarding? It's a long way from anything resembling enjoyment right now. And I reckon there'll be so many people out there. And I'm not going to dismiss that because that's a real question and deserves an honest answer rather than a slogan, right? Well, there are seasons of work that are genuinely difficult. I've been in them, so have you. So I'm no exception. It's competent work in an industry that never quite lit anything up in me. Work I did properly, showed up for, gave my effort to, and still walked away from at the end of the day without, a great deal of enthusiasm, let's just say. That experience is real and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Again, I'm not the only one who felt that. But here's what I've come to believe, and I want to say it carefully, right? So the enjoyment Solomon's describing is not primarily about the nature of the task. I think it's about the orientation of the worker. Because when you bring genuine diligence, integrity, and a commitment to your own growth, to whatever it is in front of you, there is kind of satisfaction available in almost every task that you simply cannot access if you're doing just enough to get through, okay? You got to enjoy it, right? You got to make sure you don't try to think like, oh, I can't wait till Friday. Yeah, not counting down to retirement, but participating in something that matters right now in this task for an audience who's paying full attention, right? That's where the enjoyment lives. Not necessarily in a perfect job. I don't know if there's any perfect jobs out there. Maybe there is. Put down your comment, let me know if you found one. It's in the faithful orientation towards the one you have, okay? Oh, by the way, if this is making sense to you and you're liking it, do me a favor, please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up and share the video. I know I like to say something, but I want to say more, right? And I want to say this directly. The Sunday evening dread that most of us absorb as normal is not compulsory, right? It's not the human condition. It's not what God had in mind when he had put the man in garden and gave him something to tend to. And the evidence for that is as close as the question, right? Here we go. Have you ever done work that made Monday feel different? Most people, if they're honest, have at least a season where that was true. Could be a role that they were given, a particular project they enjoy, a period where they found themselves actually looking forward to turning up. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people in that situation. Thank God for that. That feeling wasn't an accident, was it? That was a glimpse of what Solomon was describing. That was something from the hand of God. My friends, let me tell you, the mental health benefits of meaningful work are not a modern discovery. Yeah. I'll say it again, it's not a modern discovery. Because the man who wakes up glad about Monday is not just professionally fortunate. He is, in some measurable sense, winning at life. He's living closer to what he was made for. He or she, okay? And God designed that to be accessible, not just to the lucky few who fell into the perfect career, but to any person willing to bring faithful effort and honest engagement to whatever work is in front of him. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. Hear it again, nothing better. Now Adam walked into the garden knowing what he was there to do, and the work was good before a single thorn had grown. Praise God. What an incredible garden that would have been. What would Monday morning look like for you if you walked in like that? Yeah, put yourself in a comment. Love to hear from you. Thanks for being with me. I've got to go back to have some dinner. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.